liberty and justice for all.
On to our roll call. Trustee Long.
Present.
Trustee Khan.
Here.
Trustee Goodman.
Here.
Clerk Kellner.
Here.
President Lysick here. Attorney Schulberg.
Here.
Trustee Brenner will be late. Trustee Clark.
Here.
Trustee Hunshaw.
Present.
Thank you. Move on to item 2, public comments. If there are any public comments, trying to keep them to about 2 minutes. Stand up at the podium, state your name, address. If there are no public comments, we will move along. Item 3, staff reports, fire department report.
Obviously, they're not in
He's
here.
not here quite yet. We'll come back to fire department. We'll move along to the library monthly report. Carla?
I put a few extra pages in your packet this week just to explain a little bit about what we've been doing the last 2 years. But on the first page of the report, I wanted to point out that even though May and April are supposed to be slow months, they weren't, which I'm glad about. We're up about 11% compared to 2019 for the items that we check in and check out. That surprised me. It's more than I thought. Last Friday, I went down to Washington Caldwell School. It was the first time I've actually crossed the county lines to work with the school there and meet some librarians from down there. It's funny how we're all in our own little circle. It's a great school. I really liked it, and we're hoping to work together a little bit more. I also got an email from the Big Bend school librarian, and she wants to start a committee in the fall. We're going to try to encourage kids. She would like to encourage kids in the school to start reading hardcover books versus their technology. She said it's been a problem in their school that all the kids are doing is using their tech devices, so we're hoping to put our brains together and come up with something. I included a copy, just because I've never done this before, of our Waukesha County standards. The village board approves waiving the levy rather than sending it to the county. You give it to us. But the library system in Waukesha County require us to sign this, and the board approves it. Those are the standards that we have to meet, the minimum, in order to be a public library in our system, and we more than meet all of them. We were one of the few libraries that were able to complete this. A lot of the other libraries were closed down longer than we were, but they're given a waiver by the state for that this year. And on the last 2 pages, I gave you some graphs. I love these graphs. They help me understand what exactly we're doing. I have a feel for what we do, but it's nice to see the actual statistics. So the first one in there that says circulation comparison, that basically tells me what out of our material is moving and what isn't. And our books for adults and our books for children are almost equal in the amount that are checked out. So I'm seeing adults and children are reading our material. And then DVDs, if you put together what adults and children, it's about a third of what we own. And that's about how I divide up my material purchasing budget. I spend about 25% on DVDs and about 75% on books, just because they're more expensive. The other graph is library usage by municipality, and that shows me the highest peak indicates that our Big Bend residents are using our library. About half of our material goes to them. The other half goes to our 2 neighboring libraries, more to Muskego and McWanago, and a little bit less to Waukesha. So we're being used by other libraries, we're sharing, but that's where my county money comes back to me. The people that tend to go to Muskego and McWanago are Town of Vernon residents, and we all share each other. And we like Town of Vernon residents and Town of Waukesha residents, or other villages, because that drives up our county funding. But our greatest service is to this area, and the statistics are showing that we're doing that. And on the main report, I need to correct on number 2. I wrote down 55% of our active Big Bend patrons are 40 years and older, and 45% are over 40. That's wrong, they're under 40. So if you would divide our 626 registered card holders, a little bit over 300 of them are 40 and older, and the rest are younger. Our children's books are checked out by adults. We don't have a lot of kids that come in with their cards. And the last point I wanted to make was our programming. We try to do programs every month, but about half of them are geared to children, and 60% of the attendants are children, and the rest are adults. So we're kind of divided in the middle. Do you have any questions? And please come in and talk to me anytime if you have questions. I might not have all the answers, but I know where to get them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night. And we'll circle back to the fire department monthly report. Good evening, chief.
Hi. Okay, so we had 14 calls for the month, we're at 70 for the year. Ladder testing has been completed. This Saturday, we'll be participating in Christ Lutheran's Touch a Truck. They're gonna have that set up in the parking lot by their church and school. On June 8th, we'll be picking up the winner of St. Joe's, have breakfast with a firefighter, and we'll be taking them out to eat, and then we'll be dropping them off at their school in a fire truck or ambulance. We had another major accident on I-43 a couple weeks ago. Our members were on scene for a little over 5 hours there. So, been having
Third
some,
now, right?
pardon me,
That's the third big accident or fourth?
third, probably, well, I think Vernon had one.
Right, that was just on the other side up by Kroger.
Yeah, we've had 2 majors up there, since the construction's been going on.
How long do they anticipate that being, do you know?
I don't know right offhand how long it's gonna be.
So as a person that drives it every single morning, you have truckers that are trying to get over because the trucks to use the left lane is posted very late. And you are constantly having to slam on your brakes to let the truckers in.
Yeah, I got people at work that tell me the same thing when they're coming in from.
So I don't know if there's a way that we can get that message back to them to have that sign sooner. I don't know, but that, it's like almost to where the line is a solid line. And the trucks are cutting in when it's the solid line right now.
Sure.
I
That'd
see
be,
it every morning.
that'd be a comment we'd have to send up to the state because it's a state project.
Right,
and
I'm just saying,
that-
with as many accidents as we've had, because any inattentive driving, that barrier is right there on that side, and the
Sure.
trucks are having trouble navigating that lane. I've driven behind trucks that can't get over, and they're stuck in that lane.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it's bad up there, so.
It's just close to hit that barrier.
And the project's anticipated to be done in November.
November through that,
So,
you're gonna have it fatal before then.
yeah, I know the same thing happened when they did that out by Moreland Road too. There was a couple fails out there, I believe. Same issue on I-43.
As the chief, can you send a message, like maybe we need to move that sign so trucks have more time to get over? I know one of them
I
isn't
don't
holding a
know
truck.
if you can or not. I mean, the state, they get all the complaints all the time, because I'm sure in the Broome, with those fails that they had, like, probably 2 or 3 years ago out there, they had the same issue. So we can check into it once and see what.
It would be great just to send them a communication like, hey, we've already had this many accidents, freeway's been shut down multiple times because of it, the sign is
Yeah.
posted right, like, it doesn't give the truckers enough time to get over it,
Right,
not
right.
even close.
Because you would think they know that from all the construction that they're doing all over the state. It seems, yeah, everybody tells me that at work too, that it's just a big headache every morning or so.
That would be great if you can follow up on that.
All right,
Thank you.
any other questions?
Oh,
All right,
thank you.
Thank you.
Item 3C, Police Department monthly report. Continuing, Chief.
Good evening, everyone. Reports you should have in front of you. 1 burglary, 1 theft, 4 drug related, 1 intoxicated driver, 1 CCW gun. 6 adult arrests, 93 traffic stops, 86 citations, 9 non-traffic citations, 342 total calls, 92 house checks, business checks, and extra patrols, 7 accidents, and 6 EMS responders, part of the 6 EMS calls. You can read through the narratives there while they keep going. 6 other agencies, 18 hours and 10 minutes in other agencies. A significant portion of that was up on the freeway for the accidents that you were just discussing. 88 made initial appearances for court for Village of Big Bend. Village of Waukesha had 9. State debt collection, the numbers are there. $3,103 and change for Big Bend, $111 and change for Village of Waukesha. There's a typo there. Year to date, right on the bottom there. Touch a truck this Saturday, as the fire chief talked about. Derek's gonna bring barricades out there for them tomorrow. They're gonna close Maple Avenue from 164 to Coulter's parking lot. Put trucks in that area. We don't see any problem with that. We're trying to stick our squad that's gonna be there right at Maple 164, so if we have to get out, we can get out, and also the lot in case some independent person would come and be our vehicle and somebody else's. National Night Out, we picked the date for National Night Out, it's
12th.
August 12th, thank you. We, before we decided that we were going to do National Night Out, we decided to take some of the funds from National Night Out and buy tumblers for all the school kids at all 3 schools, Big Bend Elementary, St. Joe's, and Christ Lutheran. We delivered those today with a flyer in it for National Night Out to promote National Night Out. On a staffing of the police department, Nate Schweitzer has been with us for just over 2 years. Has resigned his full-time position. He's taking a full-time position with Waterford. Reasons we don't have to discuss. He's gonna stay here as a part-time position. And I just, yesterday, Sarah Polka, who's just our brand new part-timer, has only been there about 6 weeks. Who actually, the Fire and Police Commission asked her if she'd want a full-time spot, because we were still down a full-time spot. She's gonna take the full-time spot, effective July 1st. She's already got like 17 or 18 days for June anyhow, so even though she's part-time, she'll be pretty much full-time, but it'll be in effect with WRS on the 1st of July. Questions, comments, concerns?
Thanks, Chief. President's report. Just a reminder, we got Roll White River coming up July 9th and 10th. We also have village fireworks on July 4th at sundown. Item 3E, Public Works Department monthly report. Eric?
Good evening.
Good evening.
So we've been busy rebuilding both ball fields. We put a total of 70 tons of infield mix on both fields. We rebuilt the pitching mound on Riverside. Trustee Goodman's been on Terrace Street recruiting teams, and he's done very well at that. I think all of our diamonds are used just about every night right now. So that's a good thing. RAP, which is recycled asphalt product, we've been using it on shouldering. Did a bunch of work up on Sunset and Sunset View Court. Also did some stuff on Woodland. Here at Bowling, we had some stuff that was washed away. On Edgewood, we did the same thing on where some of the driveways lead Edgewood. There's significant holes there, we patched those. We're gonna finish up with some of that and give a little more time. The floor mats for the museum that were requested were purchased, and Sadie and Bobby were happy to have those. We also placed TV, which is a traffic bond, real fine substance in the dugouts at Cherry Street. If you have not been in tune on what's going on in the aggregate market, we used to buy that stuff for $35, $40 a truckload, and this was 118. So aggregate and concrete and everything else is up significantly. On Saturday for the dumpster, we took in ATVs, which is a pretty significant amount. Sold 2 plots up at the Row Home Cemetery. We had 0 burials this month, which was actually a good thing, I guess. But a lot of our time this month was spent on making these fields stand tall and getting done, plus our other duties. We also planted 3 trees that were donated from celebrations. They were planted, one was planted in the park and 2 were planted up here. These were for members of the celebrations. We had a parent who passed away during their time on our committee. In the park, we put some straw matting down. Take care of some areas that had some giant ruts in the park. That stuff's coming in very well. We have probably raised and lowered the flag more in the last 2 months than I can ever remember doing here. It's been just about every other day we're lowering or raising it. The John Cajun landfill, this is the last month. We're doing an inspection on the 9th, and things have been looking really well up there. But at the end of this month that's it. Has to be all up to par, which I think they're gonna get there. It's been a long road, but we're there. We put up 25 flags on Clark, Edgewood Avenue, Milwaukee Avenue, Nevins, Riverside. We had somebody who decided that Woodland Lane was a better place to dump a mattress than bringing it down to the dumpster. Of course, we don't know where it came from. Started doing some clearing on Edgewood Avenue for some brush. We'll continue that as we have more time. Right now, we're in the process of taking down a bunch of dead trees in the park here, and hopefully we have that done way prior to the rumble. So, any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. One other thing, if any of you have some extra time on July 9th or July 10th, we are short of some volunteers for the rumble. And we've got a significant amount of people from the Lions Club that are have gotten up there in age, and they are not able to help us anymore. If you can give us, 4 hours out of one of those days, that'd be absolutely awesome. So thanks.
Thank you. Report from professional services.
The only thing I was going to mention is at our firm, we hired an attorney who has municipal experience, Kevin Clark is his name. I don't think any relation, but so occasionally you may see a new face attending a meeting, or if you need a bidding or something like that, he'll be out in Lake and I. So thought I'd at least mention that in case you don't recognize somebody here. So
Thanks. Item 4, consideration and approval of minutes. Approval of May 6, 2021 village board meeting minutes.
I make the motion to dispense with the reading.
Second motion.
No further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
think, under, part J of, number 7, I think it's number 7, where we have all the, this would be for discussion, consideration, and possible approval of the following tobacco license applicants. The third one here is, Brad, Janney, the new agent for Quick Trip. I believe his last name is misspelled. I think it's Janney.
All right.
It's either that or at the other place that has an extra E in it, where his name appears. There's one right below that too that has his name again with no E. But there's one place where it does have an E in it, under number F.
Oh, check it out.
And again on K.
And then under F is where it's got the E in the name.
On number 10, we made the motion to come, to go back into open.
I sent that out in an email to Laura.
Kelly,
We got it written down.
Kelly made the motion and Tony seconded it.
Okay.
So you can add that in. I make a motion to approve the minutes as corrected.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, discussion and approval of bills from June 3rd, 2021 in the amount of $91,614.34. I would like to also add in one thing up from finance. We discussed in finance the mats at length last month, and Kelly went back and asked Alsco to see if they would match some pricing. They did. They're right in line with everybody else to do it every 2 weeks. They cut their pricing less than half. They've been doing our mats since 1972. I would recommend just leaving it as is with the new pricing.
That's great. It pays to ask.
Right.
Perfect.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly. Second this?
We didn't have a motion in the
I'll
second.
make a motion to pay the bills in the amount of $91,614.34 and stick with, Alsco.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, old business discussion, consideration, possible action on the emergency management plan for the Village of Big Bend. Update. Tony, Michelle.
Yeah, I don't have an update on it. It's still in motion of being completed.
Okay, very good. Move on to new business. Item 7A, discussion, consideration, possible action for adding accounts to the cemetery budget for maintenance expenses and also for DPW stormwater management carryover. This was discussed at Finance and Personnel. They're gonna add a GL number or two to offset maintenance expenses to keep track better in the cemetery budget. And the Finance and Personnel Committee also recommended opening a stormwater management fund in LGIP to carry over any excess for culverts, things like that, rather than rolling them back into the general budget if it's unspent. That type of construction work can get very expensive, but we would need a motion to open the LGIP.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7B, discussion, consideration, and approval of overpayment to court clerk from July 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2020. What we had there was a misunderstanding and an accidental overpayment of the court clerk. Someone misunderstood when the fiscal year runs and when the budgets are set and announced to the public. All village payroll goes into effect January 1. That's posted to the public every year. It always has been, it always will be.
And as we're into by ordinance.
Right, and for some reason, the court clerk thought she was owed back pay because she thought their fiscal year ran from July 1st to June 30th. We do the budgets early in court so that we can get them back to the respective boards to consider for their budgets. So we always try to have the court budget done by the end of June. Slight confusion, finance and personnel recommended that Gail repay the overpayment for that 6-month period. So I would need board action to do so.
I will make a motion that the village recoups the overpayment of wages from 7/1/2020 to 12/31/2020.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
Moving along. Item 7C, discussion, consideration, and possible action for final buyout. This was for Nate Schweitzer's leaving from full-time, but he is still on the payroll, so we're going to push that off till next month, correct?
Correct.
So no action on that. Item 7D, discussion, consideration, and possible action for vacation carryover.
Regarding Nate also?
No, this is regarding Eric. He had 1 week of vacation carryover, and thanks to Jeff's super exuberancy in renting out the ball fields this spring and having to get them all ready, Eric was unable to schedule his vacation time before the traditional deadline.
Yeah, he didn't have anything scheduled, but he really was good about not scheduling anything and taking it. We put in a lot of time to, totally bring these ball fields up to where they needed to be. And at this time, we have 7 different organizations renting from us the ball fields, Cherry Street and Riverside over there. And Eric did a fantastic job, and it was almost like a week or a day or 2 every week to get this done. We hauled in a lot of mix and spent a lot of time just getting it done. And all the people that use these now are just really ranting and raving about how nice they are. And some of them didn't even know they were there. And we have some teams now that are competing to possibly rent it for the whole season. They're that impressed with it. So thank you, Eric, for just
Thank you.
not taking vacation to help us get that up to snuff. And I know he won't be able to get it done here anytime soon either because we have a rumble coming up and he puts in a lot of time. So I would recommend that we let him take and carry this over and get it used up as soon as he sees a little daylight here. So I would make the motion to approve him being able to carry it over this week.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
This is from the calendar year of 2020?
Yes.
Okay.
1 week, I believe, correct?
I'd have to check on it.
I believe it was
Yeah,
40 hours.
it's a week, yeah.
Is there any time frame given on having to exercise that? I mean,
I would say by the end of the year, because he's still got to take his,
He still has some
2021.
vacation that he needs to earn.
yeah.
And, when we came out of finance with you know, the same idea that, you know, you really have to get down to using your vacation time in the time period. And we've discussed it many different times, and this year, I think we have a real legitimate excuse, you know, and plus we have extra people now on, we have Chuck full-time now, so Eric should be able to take and get away and use that needed vacation time.
The only reason I ask that, and I think that that's, for me, that's perfect, would be the end of the year. Just, there's been instances before, if you don't tell people that they have to use it by a certain time, they're banking it for
Well, it is
a
in,
couple of 3 years.
it
some
is in
cases.
their handbook
Right,
that it was to be used already.
right, I get that, but since this is an allowance to that, I just wanted to make sure that we state that it would have to be by the end of the year.
Okay. I'll add that to my motion.
Is there further- Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. 7E, discussion, consideration, and possible action on a proposal from Ayler's. In your packets, you will have maybe a couple copies of a proposal from the Ayler's, what it's going to cost the village to expand the TID and extend the TID out to its full 20 years again. We're proposing to include the Schwabe property and the Fickel property in the tax incremental district. They're not in there now, and as long as we're doing this and going through all the paperwork and costs, we're gonna run it back out to its 20-year maximum at the same time. I believe the total cost to the village to do this is going to be $17,500. Which will go against the TID. With one proposed development that will pay for the whole entire TID as it sits in 20, well, it's in here. 2034. Attorney Childers had a chance to review the contract. Any comments or? No.
Where does it talk in here about the addition of the 2 parcels?
It doesn't.
So how do we know
She
that's
just-
happening?
It's all included in the phase 1 study. She'll lay it all out in paper then at that time. She's not gonna put any work into this unless she's gonna get paid.
And they have to agree to be permitted?
No, but they already have.
So Ayler's has been retained to do this, or is it?
Ayler's is doing it currently for the TID. They are our financial advisor, municipal financial advisor.
So
And I met with her to get a quote on what it would cost to do the proposed things I spoke of.
so it'll just start the 20-year clock ticking again.
Well, the clock's running now.
Right.
But it resets in about 7 years.
Yeah.
There's a whole laundry list of things in here that need to be done. Joint review board, planning commission public hearing, 2 of them. Planning commission governing body action and joint review board action again. And Ayler's takes care of walking a clerk through all of these things, and everything's gotta be noticed. I believe this all has to be done prior to September 1st in order for the 2021 taxes to count towards the TID. If we're after September 1st, then we don't take advantage of anything until 2022.
So I'm gonna plead a little bit of, not understanding this completely, but if we have no developments in the TID, are we getting any tax off of that district to take credit for it this year?
I'm laughing because I asked the same question in the previous meeting.
Okay,
So you're not playing stupid
No.
because I don't get it.
so is it, until we know for certain that we have developments that's going to kick into it, is it even worth spending $17,000 to start the clock running again? Or do we just let it go out and then reset it whenever we actually have stabilized, solidified developments on the board for moving into that district? Because again, if it's 3 years until we have an established business where the taxes flip over from where it is currently, it's basically farming, agriculture, which is next to nothing, to whatever the business is, we would want to start that 20-year clock running again, correct? Which would mean that we'd have to pay potentially another $17,000 to start it over.
You don't get to start it over again.
You only get one shot at it.
Yep.
What prompted adding the Schwabi and pickup properties?
The Schwabi property's been sold. And there's a company that wants to break ground this fall.
Okay, so we're adding in properties to it at the same time.
Well, yeah,
That's
that
why
was
you
the
have to redo it to,
Okay, I did not know that.
it's adding the Fickel property, which is landlocked, and the Schwabi property.
In the Schwab property, okay. I didn't know that was part of the deal to bring that in.
I have a question on the bottom there, $125 an hour, not to see $300 an hour, so that's a hell of a spread from 125, he's getting up there to provider's wage.
Maybe even more,
I wish
right?
for Big Ben we could get that.
I just thought it was a heck of a spread there.
Right.
It's
I-
like, when are they gonna charge 125, and why would they charge 300? If it's 100, it could be as low as 125.
I might be able to answer just because it's usually the staff person you're using. So I know in our office, if it's a secretary, a law clerk, or a paralegal, or an associate attorney, or a senior attorney, they all have different rates.
Okay.
So it depends kind of who's actually doing it. And then I guess you could get an idea as you're working with them, kind of who's going to be doing the bulk of the work as far as that would go. But I'm suspecting, because I think that's what it said in there, just depending on the staff level of the person.
My concern was, this isn't a for sure thing that this company is gonna break ground. So if it doesn't, then we're spending money that we're not gonna raise. If the business isn't in the TID when they break ground, can you roll them into the TID?
We can always roll them into the TID, but any work that's been done,
But it will only be, like, as soon as they break ground, if they break ground in the fall and you start this work, I mean, you're looking at not a huge change from fall to December.
You wouldn't be able to claim it till the year, next year,
Right.
the end of next year.
Right, it's not being a finished property.
you're correct. It's not gonna be a finished property. It's gonna take them a year to build that.
But if,
But you are losing out on tax dollars that you could have in your pocket at the end of 2021.
but you're also putting
Going
out,
towards the
restarting
TID.
that 20 years. And 15 years from now, you might need that extra couple of years.
I don't think you're gonna redo it in 15 years.
No, but I think you might redo it in 3 or 4 years once you have your water study done and things like that, where you have,
You don't get to go out to 20, you get to add on an additional 7, I believe it is.
so it's just
6 or 7.
coincidentally
It just,
rolling it back
it
to
kind
20.
of works out that we're, back to square zero
But if we're at year 8, it would only reset at 7 years.
to year 19,
Okay.
right? Or
We haven't had a progress report on the development up there. What is happening? Is anybody looking?
Town Realty has a Generation 2 proposal that they're working up. It's different than what the first one was. Might be better for us. It does not include the big box store. But until they have things finalized and come back and sit down with us, they're still willing to front the money for the water study, but they want to know what the timeline is. We're waiting for the last quotes to come back from Applied.
That's fine for the water study, but what about the sewer system?
Sewer study's done already. That was reaffirmed last year, 2019.
The water side, we need like an ultrasound or something, right?
Yeah, the water study, what came to the village was just, well, this is how much it's gonna cost to drop a well and plumb it in.
I thought we hit a dry well up there.
We did, where they told us to, so we had to rethink and restart from square one and let the hydrogeologists do their job and not tell them where to drill. So we tapped out on phase one. They know 3 potential spots to drill, but we didn't have the funding for it to go on to phase 2 or phase 3 or phase 4. So we sat dead in the water. We couldn't progress with that. We have the potential for outside funding and our own funding now. Depending on which way we want to go with it. I prefer to use town's help and assistance with this. And we're just, like I said, waiting for the other quotes to come back, because I asked Will to reevaluate the numbers that we had from Jeff Gibson. You know, if we're gonna spend this money, we need competitive bids on the whole thing.
When you reset it, like, you know, when you pay a loan, you pay like a ton of money just towards interest in the beginning. Is that what resets? That has nothing to do with this?
What this has to do with is the money you've collected over the amount of time the tax dollars we've collected. And so far, we are 2013 to 2020. We have spent $94,000.
So if we re-up this right now, we're re-upping it to the max that we ever could re-up it to.
Right.
You're positive on this?
That's what I was told. I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not a municipal advisor. I go on what our professionals tell us.
Can we go back and ask these questions? And still meet the deadline, should there be development? As well as reaching out to the potential person that's going to break ground, not their realtor, but themselves.
Sure, can you give me a list of questions?
I just gave them to you. Kelly's got it in the minutes.
You have them all?
Do you guys have any other questions?
I didn't go through this part that was proposed today. How will it affect town realty and their aspects of this?
Doesn't affect them in the least. All we're doing is adding 2 additional parcels that aren't in it now. And the reason we're doing that is because one of the parcels is a 90% sure guarantee of a development, and the other one is kind of landlocked around it anyway, and they want to be part of the development eventually. We don't have another opportunity. Once you do this, we're done. We'd have to create a separate TID, or pay this TID off and recreate it.
Did the one at 90%, did they go to planning with some?
They went for preliminary consultation back in January, maybe.
I know they're in here, and they're pretty serious about moving their operation.
Well, they got held up with COVID when I talked to the boys at Culver's, and they're held up right now. they're gonna do
For
it.
one sixty-four, I mean, so,
But when I talked to them, they were not 100% sure. It depended on the election and this and that. And we're closer now to them potentially breaking ground, why not just ask the question? That's what I would think, why not ask the question, because you don't wanna redo it. And we also need to find out, like, if this is it, and this is as long as you can extend it, then it doesn't matter. Then go ahead and extend it. But if there's a potential that we could even get 3 more months out of it, or another year out of it, you'd want that, if there's no development. You want any potential, you don't wanna redo it now, and then, 6 months from now, be like, we should've just waited.
Right, and even now, there's no guarantee that the person with the 90% or guarantee is, there's nothing guaranteed about it.
No, they weren't sure when I last talked to them, that's why I think that we just need to ask the question again. And ask the question about, if we redo it now, is this the max that we can redo it for? Like, if we would come back to them a year from now,
We
would
lose a year,
would we
right?
get another year kind of thing?
well, how much would that losing a year really be? Because if they're gonna break ground in September,
It depends how much development goes on there between now and 2040.
Right, so if they break ground in fall.
If
we
that
can
whole
still
area
redo
gets
it.
developed, that last year could cost you $3 million.
I mean, it's, the land is bought, what they're thinking about doing is already out there. It's a huge facility. They have thoughts of even purchasing more land and expanding. I think we do have the money. We have the $17,000 to pay for this, so it's not an issue there. I don't really see a downside to this. Yeah, maybe we jump into it maybe 3 to 6 months ahead of where we are. When we get those properties in a TID and we start recovering, you're gonna pay our part off the agricultural right now, which is like $80 an acre, whatever it is. But if you're collecting taxes at that, what do we say,
Whatever it is.
whatever it might be, just even say it's $5,000 to $10,000 an acre. That's a huge difference in our pocket. And maybe possibly more than that. So I think it's worth a chance. I mean, somebody's gonna develop up there at some point anyway. And it looks like we have somebody that's right there, right now, who wants to do it. Interest rates are still great. I think that was a big factor with the election. Yeah, we don't know what's gonna happen with it. I mean, I can see that things are already changing with the new administration. But interest rates aren't gonna get any cheaper for somebody who wants to come in and build.
But this TID has nothing to do with them wanting to come and build. I mean, it's 2 separate things. We can't ask them to help us pay the $17,500. None of that. This has no bearing to them. It's just where their taxes go. And my only,
Their tax dollars will pay for the $17,500.
correct, if they break ground.
Even if they don't break ground. If they're in the TID, their tax dollars, even if it's farmland,
Right.
is gonna go, it'll come to us. It's gonna be at a lot slower rate, but
Them not being in the TID, we're still collecting taxes on them.
correct.
What kind of acreage are we talking about, the 2 properties?
What was it, 57 acres?
Total?
I think the Fickout property is 40, and I think the Schwabia is 17, if I recall.
How is it we don't include, say, the Cajun land in the western?
Has to be
side?
adjacent.
Huh?
Has to be adjacent. That would be a TID number 2. We only stand to lose something if we wait.
If they break ground this year.
Right,
And we don't move on this before September. Right?
would not move on it before September. It's got to be through the full approval process by August 31st, which is that whole list of things I read off to you before,
Which is more cost to the village.
public hearings and all of that.
Notices, all of that's money.
So with setting this up as a TID, how much additional tax money do we get from it?
We get all of the tax money in the TID.
Okay. It's-
The
it's
money
a-
doesn't go to the schools and stuff like that.
Right,
That's what
I didn't know if it
happens.
was 100% or if it was,
Now, we paid back to the developers whatever we agree on that they spent,
right,
you know, but they get paid back second.
right, I get that, I just didn't know where it was set on the percentage amounts, the percentage factors. The other question I have, I'm not familiar with Ehlers, do we have them under retainage?
No.
Do they-
Well, they are for the current TID,
Okay,
as it sits, but if we want to expand it, we have to pay them for their services.
right.
And then their fee is built in every year to what we pay.
Okay, so basically we have a standard contract with them that would discount us from going out to receive another bid from a competitor of Ehlers to see if they're cheaper than 17,000.
Yeah, I think you're kind of reinventing the wheel too at that point, you know what I mean? They've got their fingerprints all over this TID, they know the ins and outs of it, they know the ins and outs of the village where someone else can come in and how many hours is it gonna take them to get up to speed?
I think too, historically, they've been involved in a lot of the interstate interchange developments
Okay.
up and down.
Hillers does a lot of municipalities in southeast Wisconsin.
They must make a lot of money off of it.
Sure they do. There are other companies though, and I mean,
So anytime one company's making a lot of money off of something, they're going to have competitors out there that's also going to be making a lot of money off of it. And I can
that's true.
pretty much say that most companies that are having any type of credibility would be able to come in and pick up anything off of the publicly available documents. I don't know if it's worth our time, given now that we have a crunch of basically 90 days to get this accomplished, less than 90 days at this point. I don't think we have very much of an option of trying to go out to gain other competitive bids. It would take at least 30 days to get it back and another 30 to try to approve it. It doesn't leave us much option.
You know, if you think about doing something like that, you just will put it off till next year.
Yeah.
But I think we need to,
So how about this? I make a motion to accept the proposal from Ehlers as long as this is the longest that we can carry it. As long as it extends it to its full life. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, everyone?
I understand what you're asking.
My motion's out there.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 7F, consider an approval of the following operators license applications. I'll do these in batches. One, Reggie's, Micheline, Heather, Sheila, Dawn, Jennifer, Denise, Dawn, Scott, and Monica. Chief?
I wasn't at public safety, but I was advised they were all recommended for approval.
Does this come back in writing, or what do we see on this when you say they're all good?
We just bunch them together.
They do a background check and
They don't have things that we would consider them ineligible or want them to work in the tavern.
What are things that would make them ineligible?
Probation, parole, pending felony cases. I would recommend they probably wouldn't be working in the tavern if they have pending felony cases where they have zero sobriety or something like that. If they're on probation and parole, they'd have to get permission from their probation or parole agents. Those are the main things.
Do you get something back saying that they are clear of all those things, or
I run the CCAPs on them, and criminal histories.
And is that something we can see copies of?
You can take any one of these people and go on to CCAP, which is public record, and see what their records are if they have.
No, I don't want to do your job. It'd be nice to see these.
You want me to print out the blank CCAP?
I don't think I want that for the board, but I mean, public safety, I'm sure you're going through all of these and reviewing them, right?
You take his recommendation,
Okay.
and if he goes through and lets us know if there's something that we need to be aware of.
And you're comfortable with that?
I mean, I think that's what we task public safety with. I don't want to waste our, the whole group's time looking over details on bartender licenses.
Well, even not just bartenders, but, you have businesses and all that kind of stuff to see,
We'll get to one when we get down to the,
Okay, so we got Richie's. I'm gonna go on to number 2, the Blue Heron, Brenda Phillips and Cynthia Nelson.
same, there's no issues.
Okay, number 3, Kelly's Bleachers, Sarah, Karen, Brady, Kelly, Alyssa, Kayla, and another Alyssa.
There are no issues, they just need to complete their responsible server, and the $25 from Melissa.
And that came in.
Yeah, and didn't both of those get the responsible servers as well? I believe that.
Yes, all 3 of those, I think he dropped those all off.
Yeah. Public safety was acknowledged, that was taken care of.
Okay, there's no further issues with those creatures. Quick Trip, Victoria, Andrea, Sherry, Julie, Tyler, Mary Kay, Bonita, Dawn, Brett, Jamil, Edward, Martha, Stephanie, and Lauren.
There was no issues. These were, which is the one that was a late ad? Was that under this one, or is that under Papa's?
That was, are you talking about Lori Tapp, the editor?
Yeah, I think it was Lori Tapp.
And she's off, so we can cross her off. She
Okay.
never got her thing to us.
All right, so yes, then these were all approved.
Very good. Papa Stashes, John, Sydney, Nicole, Tony, Samantha, Kimberly, and Ashley.
There are pending,
2 of them have pending citations that will go to court on June 14th, whatever next Monday is. Or 2 Mondays from
June
now.
14th.
Which 2?
So,
But you can't hold it against their license at this point because it's pending.
it's pending trial.
You can't.
So we did approve them.
Okay. Club Shamrock, Michelle, Patricia, and Jessica.
They were approved.
Jerome Drugs, Sally, Lynn, and Sarah.
They were approved. With that said, I make a motion to approve all of the above applicants for the operator license.
I'll second it.
Motion is second for all of the above operators' licenses, scratching Lori R. Tapp. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
If I could
Yes.
maybe interject, Chief, do you remember, I was looking back at the ordinance because these operators' licenses are coming to the board, and I thought, I see some language in here about public safety has the authority to approve licenses.
We did that in the past in this board, when Jamie was here, we approved it through the safety, and all of a sudden it's back in here. I don't know how that happened.
Well, I was just curious if.
It's been back here since I started here.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, for what it's worth, in chapter 12, it says what licenses can be renewed at the committee level and what come back to the board. So maybe if everybody wants to just look at that
Sure.
and see what they.
Save us some time.
Because, yeah, and I mean, it's not a right or wrong, it's like a lot of communities handle at least bartenders licenses at the committee level, or even at staff at the department level. But it's up to you guys.
We have to follow the ordinance, don't we?
Yeah, well, let me, and again, I'm reading that stuff online right now, so, you know, let me just see here, under the village code, notwithstanding the above, the village public safety commission shall, upon the review and report of the police department, have the authority to grant operators licenses, provisional licenses, temporary Class B licenses, and renewals of Class A fermented malt, Class B fermented malt. See, prior to taking the action, public safety shall give an opportunity to any person to be heard. See the, and then an applicant whose license or renewal is disapproved shall have the right to appeal to the village board. So, and again, I guess I don't remember last year or whatever, but I thought at some point the village board, gave the committee more authority to act on.
So you only need village board approval for new applicants,
Essentially,
Or
yeah.
appeal.
or a denial.
Yeah, so that's at least the way that
Right.
thing is. And maybe it's been a courtesy, maybe it's been informational too, and
What's the ordinance number on here?
this is 12 of the village code. Let me just work my way up to the top. 12 and my 12.0, I think 12.01.
Well, either way, it was sent here for approval. I made a motion to approve it.
Yeah, which again, I don't see a problem with,
I
but,
think we can always,
yeah. 12 point,
or step into it.
12.017 is kind of the notwithstanding. So, I mean, the board obviously has authority to grant approvals. and that
But for
type of
future,
thing.
we don't have to.
Yeah.
We'll just pass it at our level.
Yeah, but no, I would agree if there's a motion, fine.
We vote on the motion?
Not yet, we didn't vote. We need to vote.
Okay, motion and second been made. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7G, consideration of Class B combination beer and liquor on-premise licenses for the following applicants. Teresa Zanin, South 76 West 32278 Hawthorne Circle. McWanago, doing business as Zingers Club Shamrock, West 230 South 8745 Clark Street.
There's no issues, they got it in under the wire. So, public safety moved to approve. With that, I will make a motion to approve the Class B combination beer and liquor on-premise license for Teresa Zanin.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7H, consideration of Class B combination beer and liquor on-premise licenses for the following applicants held over from May 4th meeting of public safety. 2, Ralph Yanis, West 212 South 7424 Annis Way, Muskego, doing business as Papa Stash Pub and Eatery, West 228 South 9300 Big Bend Drive.
So we invited Ralph to join us at our meeting, and he, along with John, came to meet with us. We talked to him about our concerns in regards to the pending litigation that's out there regarding underage minors being served at that establishment. In December, they implemented a new process where they have, I don't know what the device is called, a device that can read fake IDs. And after 10 o'clock, they have 2 of them. They have 2 security guards that scan all patrons' IDs when they come in. If they don't have an ID, they are not allowed entrance. If it's fake, they are not allowed entrance. They do go around with the people that are in the establishment at 10 o'clock and collect and scan all IDs in at 10 o'clock. They'll also use it if they're serving prior to 10 o'clock. There was a concern though because Jamie, who was at the meeting, informed the public safety group, which also Ralph and John say that they were unaware that there was an event on February
I think it was 6th.
February 6th regarding a minor, 19 years old, not a minor, but a 19-year-old female that was accompanied by an of-age male walking away from Papa's who says that they were served at Papa's when this new technology was in place. With that said, we don't know what ID she provided to the bar to gain access, anything like that. I had a conversation with Jamie that we need to do a better job, that if we were to have that report in the future, knowing that they have this device, it collects ID information for 7 days, that the police department would do some follow-up with the bar to see what ID that she had provided to them, scanned in, was it a fake, was it using a false ID, things like that. They were also unaware of the 2 traffic incidents that were in your last village report. They were aware of one of them and helped aid in the investigation and finding the person. They were unaware of the second one. They were aware of the hit and run, not the other one though. So we talked to them about that. They are partners with the Tavern League of Wisconsin. They've given free rides to patrons through the Tavern League, as well as, you know, calling Uber themselves. They are trying to do a better job of making sure that they are not having the reputation of this is the place to go for minors to drink and be served underage. We let them know that that reputation is out there at this point. They are installing more guardrails to try to keep people from getting in and out on the deck area, so that people have to go through the entrances to gain access. There was an issue where it was reported to us that people were leaving through the kitchen exit, but they're saying that that's not possible, that that would never have happened. We did approve their license with, you know, the understanding like, hey, this has happened more than once, this can't continue to happen, that kind of thing. The litigation or the charges are still pending. They go before pretrial June 14th. So it will come before the public safety again once the pretrial and thing is done, but it takes about a year sometimes to finalize is what we learned, yes.
This, recently, it's been that long just because of the COVID stuff. It depends if they want to try out or not down the road, or if they plead out to it.
Okay. The 19-year-old did plead out and paid the fine. That
So are
was
these
done.
charges against Papa Stashes, or are they charges against the individuals?
2 bartenders, correct?
And the
And
bar
individuals.
itself. The
And
bar
the
is
bar.
still, the bar is still responsible for the actions of the bartender.
So there's 5 pending citations.
So did the patrons provide false identification?
We don't know because they didn't have that equipment when this occurred.
After this occurred, they got that rear, 2 of them.
So until it goes through trial.
It's gonna be kind of hard for a bar to, if they're presented with an ID, a 19-year-old can look like a 21-year-old pretty easily. If they're a fake ID, could be difficult for the bar to really.
Well, that's why if there's something like this happens, we need to have better communication between our police department and the bar establishment themselves. They were unaware of this 19-year-old case as well as the second accident.
Who, our police department or the bar?
The bar. Our police department did their work, but they didn't notify the bar. We didn't go back to the bar to see what ID this 19-year-old provided. Again, that could be more charges that would come of that 19-year-old if she provided a fake ID, things like that.
But at that time, they didn't have the readers.
Well, no, the readers were installed in December. This event happened in February, so they did have the readers.
So how do we know that the bar served it? Is it just because they said? Or maybe the 21-year-old provided the alcohol to
Well,
the underage person?
So at this point, it's absolutely hearsay, because there's no other evidence to prove that they would have actually come from the establishment and not exactly what you said.
Mhm.
And we did have that debate with
Ralph and John.
Stash, yeah, and that's part of the follow-up that we have, is that we have to make sure that if someone during their arrest procedure is stating that they've been to an establishment like that, I would encourage our police department to follow through to do a little bit more investigation on that, especially given the fact that more charges may be pending, it may be corrective actions that could be had that now is kind of a little bit more far-reaching, and we just need to do our due diligence.
But at the same time, and you can walk people through the booking process if they want, they have the right to not answer questions. So there's times where maybe they're pulled over for a DUI, that establishments aren't listed because the person is refusing to name the establishment as well. You don't know.
It just so happens that these two incidents, well, three, the 19-year-old underage and the two traffic accidents, apparently they freely stated that they had been at that establishment.
And one of them was caught on video leaving the establishment, so.
Okay, so we have a recommendation from public safety to renew, correct?
Correct.
That is correct. We have no other legal means of proceeding with any other action except to approve.
If I could just add to that, non-renewal, so, I mean, even if there was contemplation of not renewing, it's the same burden, the same standard as revocation. So, in other words, it's approved, and then you get the evidence, the legal evidence to revoke. You can revoke or follow that procedure. But I guess what I want to say is non-renewal is not easier. It's not like, oh, they haven't renewed, they end as of June 30th. They have a right to renewal unless there's like due process, public hearings and all this other stuff. So I don't want to get too hung up here. I mean, if these things pan out as being violations legally, and then you can revisit this with the same process essentially as kind of now, where now it's speculative. Later on, you'd have to have proof and all the rest of it to not to try to take the license away at that point.
So with public safety's recommendation, I will make a motion to approve the Class B combination beer and liquor on-premise license for Rob Clance.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8, closed session. Go into closed session for Wisconsin statutes 19.85, sub 1, sub E, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, investing in public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, specifically to discuss combined/shared services.
I will make a motion to go into closed session.
I'll second.
Do roll call votes. Trustee Howdy-Shell.
Aye.
Trustee Clark.
Aye.
Trustee Lysick, aye. Trustee Goodman.
Aye.
Trustee Khan.
Aye.
Trustee Long. Give us a little over a minute to kill the video. Don't lock it
So
yet.
Michelle, has COVID sort of become less of a concern for you guys overall?
Yeah, I mean, we still have to mask at work.
Yeah,
But we're back, I mean,
more back to normal.
oh yeah. A lot of elective cases, we're trying to catch up, trying to get